You are Locked On Hawks Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Hawks Postcast, your home for the best Atlanta Hawks talk. It's local insight you can't get anywhere but here at Locked On. I'm your host, Tenitra. Batiste. Alongside me is NBA and college basketball analyst DeShaun Tate. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And of course, the Locked On Hawks Postcast is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So third quarter meltdown, not today. We'll download on that. And if you drop your number +3, you probably get high marks from T and Tate. We'll discuss. But first, let's talk takes on the Hawks 124-115 win over the Golden State Warriors tonight. And Tate, you said simply, they didn't play not to lose.
No, for sure. Listen, because sometimes we get into these instances where I know people hear this and it sounds so cliche, but if you watch the game on tonight, you will understand exactly what it means. No, it sounds like a tongue twister in the mind, but sometimes you get in position where teams, instead of playing to win, they start getting really conservative. They start really focusing on, let's just make sure we don't lose this game instead of let's make sure that we win this game. True. That's something that I think that the Atlanta Hawks actually handled pretty well. They kept their foot on the gas, even when there were situations where they go up big in the first half or first quarter, even if they went up pretty big, and then turn around and then the team starts making any kind of team that is. We know Golden State is more than capable, obviously, but, more so just keeping their foot on the gas and, not letting up because, it's a game of runs and teams are just inevitably, especially as one as good as Golden State, is just going to go on a run. And not only that, but didn't really read into the whole narrative about Steph Curry playing or not playing or any of that type of stuff. I mean, this is still a Golden State team in which, and I do understand that with Steph Curry, they're 16-3 with Jimmy Butler when both of those guys, obviously you don't have Steph Curry. But it's easy to kind of let up off the gas a little bit, knowing that they don't have maybe their most important player or most best player or most impactful player or however you want to look at that. But I think they did a good job. I thought it was really important for them to be present on 3 particular players specifically, one being Buddy Hield, because you can't afford to leave him wide open on anything. I don't care where it's at on the floor. And then there's those little players like role players and reserve players like Draymond Green and Kevon Looney, who do a good job at just playing their roles and playing their part better than anybody else and can impact the game in so many different ways, even if that's just with their toughness alone. So you have to be able to stay on those guys, even if they don't really impact the game in terms of ways like scoring. And then last but certainly not least, I think it was important for them to win the rebounding battle. Both of these teams rank in the top 10 in terms of offensive rebounding. And I just thought that it was, imperative for the Atlanta Hawks to make sure that they do something they've been doing so well all season long, not just scoring in the paint, but also, cleaning up the glass.
Yeah, you made a couple of good points in there that I want to just piggyback on. First and foremost, like you said, this is a team that actually played the game to win. That's probably the only thing that I slightly disagree on, and ever so slightly. And it's not even like a full-on disagreement. It's really just at the end of the game with the 22-9 run that the Warriors finished out with. That was the only moment where I was like, come on, Hawks, like, keep your foot on the gas. So they took it off just a little bit, but I won't leave that all at the feet of the Hawks because you said it best. It's a game of runs. So ultimately, a team is going to make a run. Golden State is no different. Other piece there is, like you said, no Steph Curry. And that's absolutely huge. But this is a veteran Golden State Warriors team that still has a Draymond Green and a Jimmy Butler in the starting lineup, and then has all of those players that you mentioned, a Buddy Hield, a Kevon Looney, a Jonathan Kuminga, Gary Payton II, all of those guys who've played with that team for a number of years and have been one of the strongest benches in all of basketball. So you can't afford to take your foot off the gas and focus on who's not on the court when there are so many other players with this team who actually showed up and were on the court. So I thought that was a good point. And like you said as well, with rebounding, when you're facing a team that does a lot of things well, that you do well, you have to make sure that you do those things better than they do. So when you look at both ends of the court, not only did the Hawks out-rebound the Warriors 46-38, but they did it in both categories. So when you out-rebound them on the offensive side of the ball, you're getting yourself some second chance points. When you're out-rebounding them with defensive rebounds, you're saying, hey, I'm taking away or limiting your second chance opportunities. So I really like the fact that the Hawks said, hey, we know that we actually have some similarities in how we approach the game. So we also know that we've got to pretty much beat you in every category in order to win. So field goal percentage beat them, at least kind of stayed with them because they were both right at 42% with 3-pointers. We're not going to talk about free throws because we're going to stay in the happy place with Tate and T. So we're not going to talk about that. But really, in every category where it mattered, the Hawks really did look at the team that was like looking in the mirror a little bit tonight and saying, hey, we're going to one-up you in every single way. And I think one of the reasons they were able to do that, we talked about the familiarity of the bench and the comfort level that the Warriors bench has. Well, there's familiarity on the Hawks side as well. And for me, my take was familiarity does not breed contempt. That's, of course, a cliche. Familiarity does breed it, but not in this case. Our guy, Brad Rowland, who, of course, we always tell you guys, he does an amazing job over at Locked On Hawks, dropped a stat that I just have to share with you guys. He said, he's bumping this from earlier this week, Trae Young, Dyson Daniels, and Onyeka Okongwu have played 274 minutes together since the All-Star break. The Hawks have a plus 13.5 net rating in those minutes. The reason that's important to me and the reason I wanted to call it out is because DeShaun and I at the beginning of this season, and DeShaun, I'm going to say probably the better part of the last couple of seasons.
For sure.
We have had a statement that's been too much of a staple on this show, consistently being inconsistent. And it has driven you and I bat crazy until very recent. I would say probably all of 2025, but if not all of 2025, I could even drill it down to from the All-Star break on. And I really think that the familiarity is because of those three guys showing up and playing at a high level just about every night, right? So when I look at what, even tonight, I mean, we're talking about 3 players out of your 5 starters with a double-double and different kinds of double-doubles, right? So you look at Onyeka Okongwu, 22 points, 12 rebounds, 2 blocks, but wait a minute, 6 assists? Your big has the ability to handle a ball. You got to give him so much credit in evolving his game and being consistent with what he's doing when he's given those starter minutes. Trae Young obviously doing Trae Young things, 25 points, 10 assists, but wait a minute, 5 rebounds? Okay, Trae Young saying, hey, I'm going to contribute at both ends myself. And the rookie, Zachary Reese-Shea, who's just burning it up and making every case for himself to be considered in that rookie of the year conversation. But also and I just want to give him like an honorable mention, but really it's Dyson Daniels, the 12 points, the 11 rebounds, the 6 assists, and the 3 steals. Again, playing complete basketball amongst those three players rather, that allows you and I to say they're being consistently consistent and that the familiarity doesn't breed contempt, it breeds consistency.
Well, not only that, but you mentioned another couple really, really interesting points that really I just thought of just now. You talk about the 22 points that Onyeka Okongwu had.
Yeah.
And this kind of, we were talking about making sure that the Atlanta Hawks are getting off to some really fast starts, something I felt like he really had to do, not even giving Golden State a chance to be able to breathe, just because of the fact that we know the desperate measures that they're in without having potentially their best player, but we know that they like to simplify the game. We know that they're a disciplined team. We know that they're efficient and that there's minimal, wasted possessions for teams like that. So you can't make a lot of, mistakes against them. So you got to come out, really hot. And that's something that Onyeka did. 22 points in this game, but guess what? 18 of them were in the first half. You start talking, in the first half. And then you start talking about even some of the little things that Dyson Daniels was able to do between him and Onyeka Okongwu in the department of the double doubles and even some of the assists and the ball handling. But Dyson Daniels 4 assists away from being able to have a triple double in that situation, right? So I mean, all of those little things I feel like are definitely things that certainly add up and made a really big difference in this game, if I'm just being honest.
Oh, yeah, I would agree. This is the kind of ball, this is the kind of complementary basketball you want to see players playing and a team playing as they're heading down the stretch, still fighting for not so much their playoff lives, but really fighting for the ability to kind of position themselves better in the hunt for the postseason. So yeah, absolutely love what we've been able to see. And one more thing that we really liked that we saw was the fact that, yeah, it was a third quarter, but not a meltdown, not today. We'll talk about our turning point up next. This episode of our Locked On Hawks Postcast is brought to you by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more, experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Finding the right talent? Well, if you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivered incredible results. Fast and easy hiring. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day, with multiple qualified candidates to choose from and cost-effective growth. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps find affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale your business efficiently. So visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com. Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. This episode of our Locked On Hawks Postcast is also brought to you by FanDuel. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. If you got your eye on a few underdogs this year, FanDuel makes it easy to back them with spreads, totals, and game props. And with tournament games happening almost every day, there's always something exciting to bet on. And the FanDuel app is simple to use. And when you win, you get paid instantly, no waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. FanDuel.com.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
Another refrain from DeShaun and me over and over and over again is that pesky third quarter. And oftentimes it has been a refrain that has aggravated us to no end, but not tonight, not today. In the third quarter, instead of seeing the Hawks implode, instead of seeing them get feverishly ambushed by the opponent, the Warriors didn't do it. The Hawks didn't allow it because the Hawks came out, made a statement, went on an 11-1 run, and really that was the turning point. And when you look at the third quarter, the Hawks only won that quarter by 5 points, but that 11-1 run really set the stage for how the Hawks were going to approach the game in the second half. To your earlier point, playing not to lose, but instead playing to win.
For sure. And that was interesting for me because like we talked about game of runs, the Atlanta Hawks they go up by 20 points in the first half. And a big part of that is because in the first quarter, they step out on a 11-0 run in a 3-minute duration. It's like, and then follow that up with a 19-2 run in the first, going from 19-6 score to a 38-18 score. And I felt like, I'm gonna let Tenitra know. I feel like I've already got my turning point already in the bag. But of course, dealing with the Golden State Warriors and the mature team that they are, they're not just going to lay down that easily. So of course they get to themselves to a point where they make a run for themselves. And I really felt like what the Atlanta Hawks needed to do is to kind of double down on that, keep their foot on the gas like we had been talking about. And that's exactly what they did in that third quarter, where it was a 7-point game. It's 79-72 at that particular point. The Atlanta Hawks go on an 11-1 run to extend that lead and make it now 90-73. And a lot of that was just led by the hot shooting. Of course, this guy we'll talk about more a little bit later. But Georges Niang certainly kind of put some of those nails in the coffin. Sometimes there's a such thing, and I feel like the Atlanta Hawks tend to do this sometimes from time to time, too many times this season.
Yeah.
Where they'll put a team in the coffin, but forget to nail the coffin. There's no nails to it. You knew where I was going for some reason. And so, here comes this team from the dead all of a sudden.
Right.
And let's just be honest. Would it surprise anybody of all the teams that Golden State, with or without Stephen Curry, could be such a team that could do that? Probably not. But it was just good to see the Atlanta Hawks. And no, we've seen this movie before because we've starred in this movie many of times. And so preventing that from being able to happen. And of course, on that run, Moses Moody had a couple turnovers himself. There was far too many missed bunnies and simple layups that they had for themselves. And they kind of hurt themselves. So I'll mention this one last thing. While the Atlanta Hawks definitely did themselves a lot of good, a lot of justice, a lot of benefits by playing well on the offensive end, the Golden State Warriors wasn't doing a very good job at getting themselves very many stops either. The Hawks were rolling hot tonight.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those where, look, the Hawks came into this game with an understanding of a couple different things. Like you said, number one, don't be fooled by the fact that Steph Curry is not out there. And that means, hey, we're just going to roll right along and we're just going to win this game. No, it's no different than the nights when teams come out and Trey's not available and they think that they're just going to steamroll the Hawks. And then the Hawks end up winning a game.
That's right.
A la Chicago Bulls a couple of weeks ago, right? So, yeah, you've got to be very, very careful about not making assumptions about what will and won't happen when the team's best player or their most valuable player or most important player isn't on the court. And I think that the Hawks understood, you cannot afford to take your foot off the gas, because if we're being honest about it, the Hawks kind of took their foot off the gas ever so slightly in the second quarter. And you could very well say that the Warriors also took a little advantage of that, saying, hey, we know we've got to execute a little bit because that wasn't our best basketball, going 40-23 in that first quarter. But what I love about the Hawks is they saw what happened in that second quarter and said, hey, we know we've got to get out in the third quarter and we've got to take over, retake the game, if you will. Not that it was ever in jeopardy as far as points go, but what you don't want to happen, especially when you know what State Farm Arena almost turned into, which was Golden State East. You definitely do not want to give that fan base anything to rally them and turn that into home court for the Golden State Warriors. So I thought that the Hawks were very mindful of that coming out of that third quarter and making sure that they kept that crowd in it for the Hawks.
Well, I thought there was so much truth to that, and I think that Golden State kind of got desperate in some situations once the Atlanta Hawks doubled down on that run to say, you know what, we are putting the nail in the coffin. We probably didn't put nails in, but we're working on it, And so I feel like Golden State in some situations were trying to get really desperate and trying to jaw jab a little bit too much and trying to figure themselves out to say, like, the only way that we're going to be able to win this game is if we walk our way partially back into this game and get the Atlanta Hawks off of their game a little bit, because we can see that we can't defend them. So that's when you started seeing Draymond Green doing a little bit of talking, some of the other guys on the team doing a little bit of talking, because they knew that the Atlanta Hawks was just so hot at that particular time, and they themselves were not. And of course, it's always, and forever a great night when there's free chicken sandwiches involved, as you saw that in the fourth quarter. Jimmy Butler missing two back fourth quarter. So I'm a little upset I'm not at the game tonight to be able to collect my chicken sandwich.
I know, right? I'm like, every time it happens when I'm not there, I'm like, really?
It's always when I'm not there. It's always when I'm not there.
Like, it's the thing. Like, good people, it's the thing. But also, just going back real quick to that third quarter to give the Hawks some credit. Yes, they had the 11-1 run, but it wasn't all pretty, because that first minute was a hot mess with a bad offensive possession. They missed the corner three. Then you get 2 threes by the Warriors. And then all of a sudden the lead is down to 6. So we don't want to make it sound like we didn't notice that happened. No doubt. But the more important point is the Hawks weathering the storm and having that 11-1 run to make sure that the Warriors rather understood, hey, we're in control of this game. Yeah, we kind of started off a slight bit sloppy, but we're going to turn this thing around and turn it around quickly. And speaking of turning things around, these last, say, 6 games at State Farm Arena, 6 dubs, you said? Yep, that's what you'll be talking about.
This is what you'll be talking about.
DeShaun Tate, did you ever think we were going to have a conversation saying the following? 6 games at State Farm Arena, Atlanta Hawks versus Golden State Warriors, 6 dubs over the Dubs? What? That's something to talk about.
Yeah, I can't say that's something that I would have said, and I think that it is really important because, number one, more than one of those games is during a span, I believe, of which Golden State won a world championship in that particular season. But even more so of the fact that Trae Young, when you look at his last 6 games, which is just in general, not necessarily in terms of being at home, but last 6 games against Golden State, averaging 27 points a game, 11 assists per game, shooting 49% from the field and 44% from 3. Yes, that same dude that everybody talks about, is more, just flash and just excitement more than he is efficient. Those are some pretty efficient numbers against are inarguably one of the best teams year in and year out in the NBA. But I think the most impressive thing about it is the fact that because it happened at home, I put a little bit of extra emphasis, or as the cool kids call it, sauce now. Put a little bit of extra sauce on it for me personally, only because of the fact that this is a team that, for whatever reason, the last couple of years, I feel like they haven't done as good of a job defending home court as they had been when they were on the road. And for these such things to be happening when they're at home, I think that it doesn't give nearly enough attention paid to it that that they have been so good at home against. Again, I like to remind people, because this isn't against the Chicago Bulls and this team and that team. This is against the Golden State Warriors, somebody that's contending for something serious year in and year out.
Yeah, and what a great point you make, because the Golden State Warriors are right in the thick of it, right? They're at the top in that number 6 space, so they're above, rather, the play-in line over in the Western Conference. So these games are just as important to the Golden State Warriors, and have been, as you mentioned, for the last couple of years. So whether it was them marching to another championship, or whether it was them trying to make another championship run by getting themselves into the play-in round, these games have been just as important to the Golden State Warriors, especially deep in the season. And yet the Hawks have been able to do it. And then is it K.I. Smith? I
don't know, K.I. or Key or Kai.
K. Smith. That's what you're going to be.
Let's roll with that.
The Hawks are undefeated at home against the Warriors since drafting. Oh, we like this. Onyeka Okongwu. We like a double O fun fact. If there was a bell to ring K. Smith, we'd be ringing it right now, because we absolutely love when someone calls out Onyeka Okongwu, because he has consistently shown up against big teams in big moments. I mean, the bigs of another team, especially the top tier bigs in the league, they don't scare him. They absolutely don't scare him. And that is, I'm sure, a big part. Even though it's a fun fact, we've stated it earlier tonight, we say it as often as we possibly can. The improvement of Onyeka Okongwu has not been lost on us as to why, in this pantheon of where the Hawks are and what they've been able to do against those Golden State Warriors, has actually happened. Speaking of that, it's another guy that was responsible for the good look tonight. If you drop your number +3, you're probably going to get high marks from T and Tate. We'll talk about that on the other side. This episode of our Locked On Hawks Postcast is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Daylight savings snuck up on us again. And if you're feeling that lost hour of sleep, 5 Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through. Whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament, squeezing in a round of golf after work, or just trying to keep up with your busy day, 5 Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. Basketball madness. Not only have DeShaun and I been staying up late watching all the tournament action, we are actually covering it. You'll see that we are both remote. I'm in Dallas right now. He's in Cleveland. And 5 Hour Energy is what helps to keep us going through all of our demanding schedule changes and mix-ups with March Madness, with the Atlanta Hawks, so on and so forth. So I am a fan of of it. And it says here, Tropical Burst is the go-to, but can I throw in a little sidebar? Because I kind of like that grape mix too, right? And I'm serious about it. I got it packed up right now and ready to go if I need it. So whether we're at games or we're traveling, it's easy for us to grab it. It keeps us feeling refreshed. So head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry is a good look too, and peach mango. And you can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your door. So you need one now? Grab a 5-Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They are everywhere. So stock up today and stay energized.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
So
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
Well, DeShaun, the Hawks are in that 7th spot in the play-in round, which, of course, if you have to be in the play-in round, that's the ideal spot for you to be in, right? Because that's where you really get to dictate some things and you get more shots to be able to continue on in the playoffs. But you get that opportunity when players are playing at a high level like Georges Niang, number 20, who scored 23 points tonight and did it, showing us the versatility of where he can hit a three from anywhere on the floor. And that is why Georges Niang is our player of the game.
No question. I mean, dude was on fire. And I think it's good that we're seeing situations where, you know, it doesn't have to be for everybody to be having an A+ night for the team to be able to win. There are some instances where we've seen where not having, not having Karis LeVert, who was out with an injury. However, Georges Niang not playing outstanding, having a great shooting night. But then you had Terrence Mann that was able to step in the gap.
Yes.
Times when Terrence Mann was still trying to get acclimated as the last guy, it kind of felt like to kind of get on board and kind of get adjusted to being an Atlanta Hawk. And it seemed like, you know, where you had Georges Niang that was looking pretty good. But Karis LeVert was the big hot, the big name or the hot guy in that moment, bringing all the firepower off the bench. By the way, 16 points per game now averaging coming off of the bench for that team. DeAndre Hunter replacement, I'll remind you. But these type of situations where you have a Georges Niang, maybe not an amazing game by some of those others, Georges Niang stepped in the gap. I'm going to read you something that was very interesting that I found. First of all, we were talking about that in the last segment. We were talking about the third quarter run they went on. Georges Niang hit back-to-back threes at the 6:07 and 5:26 mark. So he was scorching red hot. Even more so, 6 3-point conversions in 12-plus minutes between the third and fourth quarter. So that's ultimately what I think kind of pushed them all over the edge. And when you get a three, yes, a dunk is great. That's an exclamation point. Yes, kind of going on a run that involves layups and just some mid-range shoot. But when somebody's just hitting three after three after three, it's not only something that kind of catapults you into, I guess, just slamming the door in the faces of the opponent. I mean, it's very demotivating, if that's even a word, for the opposition. So it's good to see that he was able to knock down some threes in some very critical moments for this team, and that's why he's my player of the game.
Oh, I would agree with you. I think it is demoralizing. I absolutely think it is demoralizing because if you go down to your end, let's just say you're hitting your threes, or let's just say you're getting your 2 pointers and you're hitting your and one, if you will, and you're thinking, all right, we're cutting this lead down, and yes, the Warriors even got the lead down to 6. But then there's this guy who just keeps trotting back down to the other side of the court, and he's like, "Oh, okay, well that was nice, but I got this for you. That was nice, but I got this for you."
Take
8 of 11, right? 8 of 11 from the field, 6 of 9 from 3. He was absolutely what you called it, and he was on fire. But something else I thought was kind of fire tonight, which I thought was cute, but once again, you do it when DeShaun and I are not there. Harry the Hawk, how you gonna turn into Harry Lamar? Channeling his inner Kendrick Lamar tonight. I always love when Harry the Hawk kind of
Harry
morphs into
Lamar. That's
somebody
a
else
good one.
because
I like that.
yes, he does a mean Michael Jackson morph, and he does a Prince one that's really cool too.
Okay.
So now my guy has added Kendrick Lamar to the repertoire, and he is now Harry Lamar. But listen, the Hawks, never worse for wear. They've got to turn it right back around. Thank goodness it's not a back-to-back that sends them on the road. At least they'll be back at State Farm Arena tomorrow night, taking on the Philadelphia Sixers. What do you need to see from this team, this Hawks team, for them to drop their third dub in a row at home?
Especially when it comes to a game that they just played the night before, I'm always going to start out with saying to eat whatever you ate for breakfast this morning. We'll start with that. But even more so, just keep the focus, keep the energy good. Yeah. Of course, this isn't games. Nobody wants to necessarily, go out there and lose a game or put up a stinker or what have you. But, I think that it's just very important to kind of stay locked in, stay focused, kind of, definitely need to work on those free throws. That's for sure. I still think 16 turnovers against anybody is far too many turnovers. Not everybody is going to not be able to capitalize on those the way that Golden State wasn't able to on tonight, but continue to throw the ball down there in the post. And of course, the thing that I highlight more than anything to me is the elephant in the room, and what ultimately equates the Atlanta Hawks into so many wins this season is winning the battle on the glass. You got to be able to win it, especially on the offensive end. You do that, we'll be talking about the team walking away with a win.
Indeed. And that is why we were talking about something that you mentioned earlier. When you look at those wins, the 6 wins, the sixth one against the Warriors being tonight, but 6 in those last 6 games, so important, because not only does it mean that you have now beaten them 6 straight, but more importantly, you're now back on the plus side, 18-17 at home. And you have an opportunity tomorrow night to get another win against the 76ers. And that'll be the second game. And of course, then they've got their final game of the year against the 76ers in a couple of weeks. All important when you are trying your best to either stay at that 7th space. And it's probably going to be where they are, because I don't know that the Pistons are just going to fall off the cliff in the number 6 position, but at least stay strong in that 7th position and go ahead and win out these games, especially these Eastern Conference matchups. Locked On Sports Atlanta is the number 1 place to hang out after every game. Remember to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And for more on the Hawks, check out Locked On Hawks with our guy, Brad Rowland. Have a good night.